Hello, I'm Mark Hammett, minister of the Weber Road Church of Christ in Corpus Christi, Texas. I'd like to welcome you to this daily devotional and Bible reading. And as always, the invitation is always extended to you to visit with us and join us in our Bible classes and worship assemblies. You can also view those in our stream on Facebook, also our YouTube channel, and you can also go to our website. That's Corpus Christi, Texas, and that's the Weber Road Church of Christ. You may want to turn to Exodus chapter 3. Exodus chapter 3 for our reading today. There's a story about a missionary in Africa many years ago who told of a woman who came to every service. She was accompanied by her dog. Well, she would sit on the outside next to the aisle, and at the end of the service, when the preacher gave the invitation to come forward for prayer, she would often go forward, and the dog would walk along beside her. Well, the woman's husband was a hard and perhaps abusive man. In fact, it's said that he beat her very severely because of her Christian lifestyle, and at one point, she died. There must not have been any law enforcement in that part of Africa, according to the story, because the man was not arrested. He was left alone with the dog, and he came to be very sorry for what he had done. But he began to notice that every Wednesday evening about 7 p.m., the dog would disappear for about 2 hours. Also, every Sunday morning, the dog would leave about 9 a.m. and return about noon. Sunday evening, the dog would again leave for a couple of hours and then return. Well, the man's curiosity was so aroused that he decided to follow the dog. He followed it to the church building. He took a seat on the back to watch. Of course, members of the congregation were very surprised to see him there, but the dog sat down near the aisle, members said, in his usual place. After the service, he watched the dog walk forward. Can you believe that? That was where his wife, he found out, would often pray. The man was so touched. After weeks of following the dog and actually hearing some of the sermons and the Bible class material, he actually went forward and he gave his life to Christ. Can you believe that? If it's a true story, it's a story of how even God could use a dog to lead a hardened sinner to repent of his sins. You know, imagine if you're walking on a lonely hillside and maybe it's on a hot summer day, and there's a bush in the distance that catches your eye. It's burning and it takes your attention, and you may think, wow, what's going on? Is someone trying to say something to me? Well, Moses, we know his story. He's tending his father's flocks. And one day in the desert near Mount Horeb, he does see an amazing thing. Over on the side of the mountain, he sees a bush that was on fire. But he notices it's not being burnt up. So he goes over to investigate. He discovers the reason that it's burning is because God is present within it. And God speaks to him and explains why he has come to speak to Moses. Let's go ahead and read from Exodus chapter 3. We'll read from verses 1 till we quit for time's sake. Exodus chapter 3, verse 1, the English Standard Version. Now Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian, and he led his flock to the west side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush was burning, yet it was not consumed. And Moses said, I will turn aside to see this great sight, why the bush is not burned. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called out to him from the bush, Moses, Moses. He said to him, Here I am. Then he said, Do not come near. Take off your sandals off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. And he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt, and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters. I know their sufferings, and I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, a place of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. And now behold, the cry of the people of Israel has come to me, and I have seen the oppression with which the Egyptians oppress them. Come, I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, Who am I, that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? And he said, But I will be with you, and this shall be the sign for you that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain. Then God said to Moses, If I come to the people of Israel and say to them, The God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, What is his name? What shall I say to them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, Say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. God also said to Moses, Say to the people of Israel, The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and thus I am to be remembered throughout all generations. Go and gather the elders of Israel together and say to them, The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob, has appeared to me, saying, I have observed you and what has been done to you in Egypt. And I promise that I will bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt to the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, a land flowing with milk and honey. And they will listen to your voice. And you and the elders of Israel shall go to the king of Egypt and say to him, The Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has met with us. And now, please let us go a 3 days' journey into the wilderness that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. But I know that the evil king will not let you go unless compelled by a mighty hand. And so I will stretch out my hand and strike Egypt with all the wonders that I will do in it. After that, he will let you go. And I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. And when you go, you shall not go empty, but each woman shall ask of her neighbor, and any woman who lives in her house, for silver and gold jewelry and for clothing. You shall put them on your sons and on your daughters, so you shall plunder the Egyptians. What a beautiful passage that we can learn from today. And may the Lord bless you richly as you seek to follow his will.